Welcome everybody. Today we're going to be talking about using the 5 restorative questions at home. We are using these questions in most of our schools and will be using them in all of our schools very shortly. My name is Kathy Rockefeller. I'm the school climate specialist, and we are very lucky today because we've had 2 members of the countywide restorative practices team who have shared some recordings of themselves using the 5 questions with their own kids at home. So I'm excited to share those with you. So let's set the stage first. So why is AACPS using restorative practices? It came as an effort to decrease suspensions and to increase high school completion. And it came after it became obvious that the popular zero tolerance policies were absolutely, unfortunately, not working to improve safety, which was the goal. So, meanwhile, around the same time, a study came out that said that there is a school-to-prison pipeline. That's the verbiage that they used, and basically what it showed was that every time a student is suspended, it increases their chance of not graduating from high school and ending up in prison. And the more times it happens, it exponentially goes up. So with each suspension, there's more and more of a likelihood of that. And so I think people were just starting to realize that suspensions are just not working. They don't work to fix the behavior or make our schools safer. And in fact, they go the opposite way. So something had to be done, but what were we going to do? The scholarship started to say, okay, so what is restorative justice? And basically they said it has to depend on certain principles. And the principles I'd like to share with you now are that victims of harm should be part of the justice process. That's sort of one basic principle of restorative justice. That everyone is affected when a harm is done to a community. So that's another principle, like to recognize that more people are affected than just the person who did the harm or even just the person who was directly harmed. And then last but not least is that being part of a community comes with a responsibility. And the responsibilities that you take on to be part of a community, when you violate those responsibilities, it's on you to repair the harm, to be accepted back into a community. So while all of that was going on, we all as a society in the US became less connected. We saw the rise of social media, less practice talking face-to-face with others, and our children in particular. We saw a real decrease in their skills of talking civilly and face-to-face with each other. We have fewer natural community times when people are together. It's harder and harder for families to have meals together regularly, etc. School shootings increased, and there was a drastic increase, particularly in the last 5 to 8 years, in student loneliness, depression, and even suicide or suicidal ideation. We also saw an increase in hate crimes and bullying, and we saw that there was more chance of youth self-harm. So when you put all of those together, it becomes obvious that these things that are happening are sort of complaints that are symptoms of being a more disconnected society or a less connected society. And so then you hear people start to say, today's youth have no work ethic. Today's youth show no empathy for others. They don't work well in teams. They are self-centered. They're entitled. So how do we help them feel connected? So in AACPS, the main restorative practice is regular community building circles in schools so that they are regularly in circle with other students and practicing listening and sharing back and forth and having face-to-face conversations. And at home, you can build your family community by having more times together, maybe game nights, trying for a once-a-week meal together or more. But basically, you need to build connectedness in the community. Okay, so you've got this connected community. So what about accountability? So people talk a lot about students, young people not being accountable for their actions. And restorative practices, this is really where I think it shines versus what we have done. So accountability has become kind of synonymous with a prescribed punishment, right? So you do this and you have to be suspended for 2 days or 3 days or whatever it is, right? And then you've been held accountable. But I want you to think about a different way of looking at this. I want you to think about accountability in more of a human way rather than a system way. So is putting someone out of community for a short time really holding them accountable? Is that really what being accountable is about? And I want you to ask yourself, do we think that those who do a harm their accountability should connect somehow to the harm that they did, right? So if what they did was curse at a teacher, for example, what they do to be accountable should be something that connects with that, something about repairing the harm with that teacher, okay? And it is much more powerful, if you think about it, and much more difficult to be face-to-face with the person who's a member of the community that you harmed. That's real accountability. That is tough. That is tough. And that's what we want to do. It won't work, though, if the student doesn't feel connected to the community. If they don't feel connected, they're not going to feel any motivation to fix the harm. If they are just temporarily removed from community, and that's what we normally do, then they don't care because they don't feel connected to the communities. So we really need to work on that connection piece. That's why we talked about community building circles, for this to be effective. And just the general principle that people who harm others have a responsibility to repair that harm. That's true accountability. You did something that created a harm, you need to do something that repairs it, or as close as possible, to make it better. So why should we use the 5 restorative questions to repair harm at home? Well, every family, like every school, is a community. And so we have 2 goals with using these questions. One is, when harm happens in a family, we want the child to learn from their mistake. Same thing in schools. We want to use that mistake, behavior mistake, poor choice in behavior, as a teaching method for the student, okay, so they can learn from it. And we want them to be accountable. We want them to have to do something to make it better. So those are the 2 goals of using these 5 questions. So now, these famous questions, I'm going to unveil them for you. And when you're working through a mistake with your child, this is a way to help teach them from their bad behavior and to hold them accountable to the community that they've harmed, which would be your family. Sometimes it's just one person in the family, and sometimes it's something they've done, maybe to property that the family owns or uses. So here's the questions, and then we're going to talk about them more in depth, and we're going to share some video of actual parents using them with their students, with their children. So the first question is, what happened? What happened? Number 2, so what were you thinking or feeling at that time, right then when it happened? What were you thinking? Notice I didn't say, what were you thinking? I said, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? What were you feeling? And then, okay, so that's how you felt then. What are you feeling now? What are you thinking or feeling right now? And who was affected by your actions and how? This is the accountability piece. And question number 5 is, what can you do to make things better? What can you do to make this better? So let's talk about each question and look at some examples. I'll give you some tips that I have found helpful. You may or may not. It's fine with me. So let's look at question number 1. What happened? When you ask this of your child, you may know what happened. You might have watched them dump the cat's litter into the toilet. I don't know. That clogged up the toilet. I don't know. You may have seen that and you may know that they did it. But when you ask them, I implore you to use a tone of genuine curiosity. So you have to kind of fake it sometimes on your face, right? You know what they did, but you want to ask it in a way that brings information out of them. And if you ask it with genuine curiosity, that will help them feel safe to share to you. Because the information you want is not necessarily who did it, when they did it, where it was done. The information you want is, do they have a sense of ownership? Are they willing to admit it? and what is their perception of what happened. So if their perception is that I did what my older brother told me to do, as opposed to I decided to empty this litter box into the toilet, for example, that's different, and that's a piece of information you want. You know, still a consequence will be needed, but this is a piece of information you want. So as you listen to the next video clips, you will see that we have a little girl who's in kindergarten with her mom, and they're talking about something that she did. And we have two brothers, one's in, I think, kindergarten, and the other is in 3rd grade, and they're talking with their dad about what happened using the 5 questions. And so I want you to just take note of these things. When they ask question 1, what happened? I want you to notice that the parent doesn't fact check, right? They don't correct their children. They just listen. And they keep them on track by gently bringing the question around again if needed, okay? So sometimes kids go off track a lot, actually. And so what you find also is that children's perception of things like that is generally mixed with emotion. So you'll see there, particularly with the boys, one is very upset. That's okay. That's okay. You can still use these. That's normal. And that neither parent approaches the children's version of things with sort of an eye to collect evidence or get a true picture of what actually happened. This isn't a trial. They are approaching it with genuine curiosity, just like I said. So watch and listen and enjoy these. It's very, very interesting and fun.
Chocolate, and what happened today?
I wasn't being nice, and I said I did like mommy, and I wish I never had the mommy.
What happened?
So what happened was Charlie always beats this boss for games, and he's been the boss for this game, and he's not letting me be the boss.
Okay. So if I hear you right, Charlie was being the boss, right? During the game. Okay, Charlie, what happened?
What happened was Ben's trying to use mine and Marie's and Ben's chair to play with his own Zord, and Ben won't let us use his chair, and then me and Marie are trying to build a base downstairs, but Ben won't let us do it because he doesn't let us have his chair, and he wants to join in, but he wants to take all the parts to our base. I had to destroy the thing that he made with our base.
So, if I hear you right, you wanted to play with Ben.
I wanted to play with Ben with a base, but Marie agreed with me, but Ben would not let us do that. He wanted to just make a Batmobile.
Okay. So, can I have these? Thank you. So, if I hear you guys right, Ben, you were upset because that you wanted to partially be the boss. So, and Charlie, you were upset because that you wanted to use the chairs and things, right? Mm-hmm. So he just wanted to use everything to make. I've been talking to you. So he wanted to talk everything. So you were upset because that you felt like Charlie was having everything? Okay.
Question 2. What were you thinking or feeling at the time? The first thing I want you to know is that thinking and feeling can be interchanged, and you'll see it in the second video after this. So you can use the word thinking at the time or feeling at the time, whichever one your child responds to better. People are different. Also, you want to really, your goal here with question number 2 is to help your child begin to recognize what he or she is thinking and feeling, maybe even like sweaty palms, rapid heart rate, I don't know, right before they make a bad choice. What are they thinking or feeling right before? So that in the future, they might notice, oh, I'm starting to lose it, right? And maybe self-check and be better able to do that. If you have trouble, because some children, especially young children, have trouble knowing what they were thinking and feeling at the time, I have found that it's helpful to say, well, okay, you were in your room. Were you over by the closet or were you near the door? And was Jim in the room with you or was he in the hallway, right? So you can kind of help them get back to that feeling by putting them geographically in the place. And then say, so what were you feeling right then, right? So let's watch the videos of question number 2 and our delightful children. And I want you to notice how they have varying developmental levels, particularly with the 2 brothers. And the parents in these videos do the exact right thing. They accept all of the answers without interruption or correction. There's just no need to correct the children in this particular circumstance. You just listen, because that's what you're doing at this point. And then notice how the boy's dad casually switches thinking and feeling. We talked about that. And finally, just enjoy the fun spirit that the mom uses when she accepts the silly answers from her kindergartner, and then she just gently brings the child back to, you know, exactly what she needs to ask her so she can think about what she did wrong.
Oh, yeah?
Uh-huh.
What were you feeling when you were crying?
Sad.
Yeah? And what were you thinking about?
Sad.
You were thinking about your iPad?
And I was also thinking about warm chocolate.
Warm chocolate?
like hot cocoa.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why I do. Like, it was so cold that I was cleaning for it.
So you were feeling sad and you were crying and you were thinking about your iPad?
And my hot chocolate.
And your hot chocolate and what happened?
What were you thinking at the time that it happened?
When I was downstairs and Joy joined me, he did everything that I didn't want to make, and what happened was he just made everything that he wanted to that I was planning to make.
So what were you thinking at the time?
When I was downstairs.
Yeah.
And he joined me.
So what were you thinking now?
I thought of that Charlie was being rude, and he built it, and he wanted to make everything that I did not, and he saw everything, and even my chair.
So if I hear you right, you were feeling like kind of upset because he was using the stuff and you wanted to use it? Yeah. You can have it. What were you thinking at the time, Charlie?
I was actually down there before Ben came. Like, me and Marie went down there, and then we started building, and then Ben destroyed it. But I was thinking that because I wanted to make a vehicle inside there, but Ben just won't even. He wanted to use every single piece to make a vehicle for him.
So what were you thinking at the time, though?
I was thinking that
or what were you feeling like?
I was feeling very not happy at all because, like, Ben wouldn't let me use mine and Marie's chairs in, like, one vest and one bin. So, like, I felt very unfair.
You felt
like it's not unfair because, like
it was unfair, or like it was fair, or unfair? Sorry.
Unfair because, like, Ben just tried, like, destroying mine and Marie's things over and over again and collect as many pieces as he can.
Okay.
Alrighty, question number 3. What have you been thinking or feeling since? So what have you been thinking or feeling since? This is a pivot question, and it'll tell you whether your child has begun to reflect, has begun to accept ownership and accountability so that you know where to go from here, right? So depending on how they answer that, you basically know which way you're going to go with consequences later. So if a child shows ownership of his or her mistake, then that gives you one piece of information. And you want to give credit to the child for that. And there's no need to lecture. You know, especially if the child is already taking ownership. You don't say, well, you know the rules, and we tell you this, and you never listen. You know, don't go there. accept it because they're actually where you want them to be already. We don't need to lecture. That's for us, really, not for them. So let's give them credit. So as we listen to these examples of question number 3, I want you to notice that when the kids get off track, the parents are fine with that. They don't say, we're really concentrating on this question. Instead of that, you want to say, you know, and you listen to what they say, and then you say, and what have you been thinking now since that happened? Like, just keep gently repeating it. They'll come around, and you will then know, and you'll notice on these tapes that after this question, both parents have more information about each child's ownership. Like, where are they? Are they feeling regretful? Are they not getting it?
What are you feeling now?
Happy since we got to play a game.
And what are you thinking about?
Hot chocolate.
You're still thinking about hot chocolate.
So what are you thinking about now with it?
I feel really sad because Charlie got it everything that I wanted.
So you felt upset because that you're upset now because that you want to be able to play with him and play with those things together? What?
I want to play with everything that I wanted with Charlie, and he doesn't let me do this, so I'm really sad.
Okay. What do you think about now, Charlie?
I'm thinking that I want to make like a fort and then like make a Zord in it, but Ben won't even let me. He just wants to use all that pieces to make one big Zord, and he's gonna call it the Bat Zord, and not gonna even let me and Marie in it when he's using our chairs.
So you're thinking that Ben wouldn't let you play with you?
Yes, because he's gonna use our chairs and probably not let us play and make one seat.
That's what you were thinking?
Yeah.
Oh no. So,
question number 4. This is the accountability question. This is it. This is what makes restorative practices in the 5 questions differ than the discipline methods that we use now. Who is affected by your actions and how? Children need to be taught that their actions are like a pebble dropped in a pond or a puddle, and that all of the concentric circles that come out are effects on the community. So if the puddle of the community is your family and the pebble dropped is the child's action, everyone in your family is going to be affected in some way or another. Maybe very distantly, maybe kids can't connect that. But they need to understand, as in a school, their classroom is a community. They affect kids in the classroom when they create harm in the classroom. So is the 7th grade hallway, right? So is the playground. That's a community, the kids that are out there at that time. So that when we work with them and try to teach them about accountability, we have to be able to connect that with the community that they were in and that they affected. So who was affected by your actions and how? So as we watch these examples, I want you to watch the children begin to connect their actions with the effect of their actions on the people that they love. It's great, and I can tell that these parents have used these with the kids before, because this is not an easy concept. It may take a few times of you using it for the kids to really get it. The little girl completely accepts her actions right away, and she names the people that she loves as people that were affected by her bad behavior. And then you'll notice as we get to question number 5, it'll make it much easier for her to answer that question. And clearly, the father who uses the questions with his sons who had been fighting, you can see that developmentally the older boy is able to connect it better than the younger boy. But I think it's adorable that the older boy mentions that, yeah, he can think of one more area that was affected, and it was the dogs, which happened to be there when he and his brother were fighting. I think that's adorable, and that's fine.
And who do you think felt sad from today when you were saying that you didn't like mommy? Who do you think felt sad from that?
Leora.
Leora. Who else do you think felt sad? from you saying that you didn't like mommy?
This is my face.
What?
This is my face.
It's okay that it's in your face.
Daddy.
Oh, you think Daddy felt sad?
Mm-hmm.
Who else?
Courtney.
Courtney? Who else?
But Mommy.
Mommy.
Danielle.
Mommy Danielle.
Who all was affected by this? And how, guys? Who all was affected, Ben?
Me.
Yeah. How were you affected?
Because I was happy right now when I was building, and then I was sad.
You were sad. No. Who else was affected? Here, can I put my arm behind you?
Charlie.
No. How was Charlie affected?
Because he kept on being rude to me.
So, remember when you have the talking piece, you're ready to talk, okay? No. So, Charlie was affected.
Mm-hmm.
Who else was affected?
Marie.
How was Marie affected?
Marie was playing with Charlie, and she was but she was being very nice to me.
Okay. Who else has been affected?
Aunt Mika.
Yeah, Miko. How was Aunt Mika affected?
Because she was down there watching us.
Yeah, she was downstairs watching you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Charlie. Who else was affected by this?
Evie and AACPS were down there in our fort too.
The dogs. Okay. Hey. Was I affected at all?
Yes.
How?
Because you're talking to us literally right now.
Okay. Can I have this, please?
So the last question is, so what can you do to make things better, right? So you've made them think about why it mattered. They affected someone by their harm that they did, making a mistake, a behavioral mistake, and then you're going to ask them to say, okay, so you have some power. What can you do to make it better? So children often feel powerless. And if we give them punishments or consequences that don't connect their ability to repair what they did, then we're really not doing them any favors. We're adding to the feeling of powerlessness. And they do have control over what they do with the family and how they act with the family community. So depending on their age, if they're very little, you may need to use a set of pictures, things they can do in general to help the family, or making a poster to say they're sorry, or a hug or something like that, and guide them to think about how their action harmed the community of the family and how they can make it better, right? They can't, if they make a hole in the wall because they're playing too roughhouse, they can't necessarily fix that hole in the wall by themselves. But they can help carry the things down that are needed, the supplies. They can help the father or mother, whoever is repairing the hole in the wall. They can do things that help with that. And so help them think about that. And let's talk for just a second about an apology. So a sincere apology is gold. And a genuine apology just does, a non-genuine apology, a fake apology, just does more harm. So we don't ask children to apologize just to apologize. And you'll notice, it's very cute, in the second set of clips, you'll notice that one of the brothers, the older brother, at first he says, well, I can apologize, right? And then he thinks it through, and we get to hear him think it through because he does it out loud. And he comes to the conclusion that he's not actually ready to apologize. He doesn't really think he did anything wrong. And so if he had just apologized, it wouldn't have felt genuine to the brother in any case. So that's an important learning, that, you know, an apology that's not offered from the heart, it's just not very valuable. So as you listen, I want you to think how willing that little girl is to make things better. They want to. They love their family. They love their family community. And she's able to readily attach the things that she did with the effects that they had. And so she offers what she has in her power to make things better, which is hugs. She's going to hug the people that she harmed. So that's great. That's fine. And then the boys' video, we notice that the younger boy says that to make things better, he can just agree to play with his brother. That'll be fine. And any adult who's watching it can tell that it won't be fine. They haven't really quite gotten that repaired between them. However, the father wisely does not say, well, I don't think your brother's on board with that, right? Because as time goes on, the boys it'll kind of resolve and go away, and you'll notice at the end the younger brother says, well, I'm going to play up here anyway. And so you don't really need to go there. You just thank him for what he offers, which is that they could try playing together. And then last but definitely not least, notice that neither parent, the second parent, never chooses a winner. He never says, you were at fault, and so you're going to get a punishment, and it wasn't really your fault to his sons. It isn't about choosing a winner. It's about helping them learn from what happened and then figure out for themselves a way to move forward.
So what do you think you can do to make things better?
Some of my cousins and friends call you Danielle.
That's true, they do. But
That's your real name.
that is my real name. But what do you think you can do to make it better?
Say I'm sorry.
Okay, who are you gonna say you're sorry to?
Courtney, Daddy, and Mommy,
Okay.
and the phone, and my butt, and my mouth, and hot chocolate.
Okay. Is there anything else you think you can do? So you can say I'm sorry. If that's what you want to do, you can say you're sorry. What is there anything else that you can do to make it better?
Give you a hug and a kiss and say I'm sorry.
Ooh, I love that idea.
Okay. So what can we each do to make things better? One thing that I can do with you guys is I hope you know this already. You can come and talk to me at any time and talk. You know that, right? Mm-hmm. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what can you do to make things better, you think?
Play with together.
That's a great idea. You play together. Mm-hmm. Well, and that way you guys can all decide together what you're going to do, right? Mm-hmm. So, Jody, what do you think you can do to make things better, too?
Say sorry.
So, what are you going to say sorry for?
Think.
What are you sorry for?
I'm also sorry for, think.
Because I don't want you to say sorry just to say sorry, you know? What would you say sorry for?
I don't know yet.
You want to take a little more time?
Yes.
Okay, can I have the talking piece? So, again, one thing I can do, guys, is I want you to know you can always talk to me, okay?
Okay.
So Ben, you said one thing that you want to do to make things better is you guys are going to play together, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you think that'll help? Mm-hmm. Hold on, buddy. Try. So what can you do to make things better?
I can say sorry because, sorry that, that I wouldn't no.
It's okay.
I can't really say sorry because, I don't really think of anything because Ben's just going to take all the pieces after.
What can you do to make things better?
Ask Ben if we can make a mini Zord inside the headquarters, but not use a lot of pieces.
Okay, so you're going to play together for it?
Yes, a little bit.
Are you okay with that, Ben?
Mm-hmm. Can I play with Molly?
Okay.
Ooh.
Can you guys... hold on. Okay. Come here. So you're gonna play up here with Marie then now? Mm-hmm. Okay. Are you okay with it too, Jory?
Yes.
So at AACPS, we combine the connecting activities of the community building circles with these 5 questions when needed, because we want to teach the children how to be in community with each other. This is how our society is being built, really. And how they can learn from their mistakes, You can use the same language at home with your children. It helps keep me on track when I'm talking to my kids. And working together, we can raise some remarkable human beings. So thank you.